قمرون قمرون قمر سيدنا النبي.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Welcome, brothers and sisters, to the podcast again, inshallah. It's the month of Rabiul Awwal, so inshallah, today's podcast we have dedicated to a Mawlid celebration in particular. The aim, inshallah, will be to look at the permissibility, the significance, and the role of the Mawlid Sharif itself. So, in the Ummah, we find that there's a contention about the Mawlid itself. So, if we, Shaykh, today start with this, that as believers, as Muslims, we really should be united under the banner of the love of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. What's your view about the controversy surrounding this issue itself?
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا وحبيبنا وملجأنا محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين وصحابته الأكرمين. So in terms of the controversy, and I'm really glad you began like this, because it really has become a very contentious issue, an issue that was really supposed to unite and bring the Ummah together on a common platform has now clearly dividing the Ummah. So really, I just want to say right from the outset that this podcast isn't your typical us against them. We're not here to condemn other Muslims. We're not here to disparage anyone. First and foremost, those people who don't celebrate the Mawlid in the manner in which we celebrate it, we don't consider them as mubtadi'een. We don't consider them in bad light. That's their ijtihad, fabiha, and we respect that. In fact, we often say is really the point of the Mawlid and the point of any act of virtue is taqarrub ila Allah and tazkiyah. And so really for us, we're just presenting our ijtihad, and the whole point of it is to clarify the contention behind the issue. And so there are many people who consider it as a bid'ah, as an innovation, as a fabrication. We just want to present to those brothers and sisters that it's not a fabrication, it's not yukhalifu sunnah, but also we want to remind those people who supposedly celebrate it to really appreciate the spirit and meaning behind the Mawlid. And the whole point, as I mentioned right from the start, of any Mawlid, of any act of virtue and bir, is to get closer to Allah, is to have tazkiyah, is to bring ta'awun and muhabba bain al-Muslimin. So there are many people who celebrate the Mawlid. There are many people who advocate the Mawlid. And yet, if you look at their akhlaq, if you look at their demeanor, if you look at how they conduct themselves up and down the country, really, I'm not just saying in this particular town. I've observed people up and down the country very strongly confess the significance of Mawlid, and they're doing the Mawlid. And yet, if you look at their akhlaq, then they're not even prepared to sit with each other, right? They're not even prepared to discuss with each other, and yet supposedly they belong to the same minhaj. And these are people who've gone to Syria, they've gone to Mauritania, they've gone to the Yemen, and these lands of great Sufia and the awliya, and yet they come back with each other. They don't have enough wus'ah in their sadr to acknowledge a colleague, acknowledge their fellows, and sit on a table together to show solidarity and unity. And yet all they do is this one-man show. I'm the daddy of everything, and I'm the great sheikh of everything, and these are my group of disciples, and I'm never going to sit with another sheikh or talk to him openly because suddenly I lose the limelight. Yeah, and these are people who supposedly do the Mawlid. And so, it's really a wake-up call. Mawlid isn't about me being right. It's not about this egotistical sense of superiority, of us being closer to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And at the end of the day, the last point on this is what would Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam prefer? A pure heart with tazkiyah, with goodness of akhlaq, with a person who worships his maker with ikhlas, with muhabba, shawqan liqa'illah, shawqan li muhabbati rasulillah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but maybe doesn't do the mawlid. In comparison to a person who does the mawlid and has kibr in his heart, has arrogance and pride and jealousy and envy and ta'assub, right? You do the maths, really do the maths. If tasawwuf, zikr, Sufi tariqas, mawlids, right, engender akhlaq like that, then subhanallah, we have to really, really be careful, because what we're representing is we're representing supposedly the awliya, the path. The tasawwuf is a path of tazkiyah. And if we're advocating tasawwuf and yet we've got so much pride in our heart that we can't even sit with our fellow contemporaries, ulama, right, then we've missed the point, you see. And so really a massive wake-up call. So this isn't your typical, we're right, we celebrate the Mawlid, and to hell with the rest. This is a wake-up call for us to appreciate really what the meaning behind the Mawlid is, but also the adillah behind the Mawlid. And in many ways, Mawlid is a good case of fiqh as well. That, there are many other things that have emerged which were new, which the Sahaba didn't do in that particular form, and waqis ala hada, and so it's applicable in many other issues, the arguments and the dilla that we present, and hopefully the logic, inshallah, makes it more expansive in terms of application.
If we then, Sheikh, begin with the first question, then, because we've got viewers that may not know what Mawlid is itself. So if we could begin first with what is Mawlid itself, how is it observed today in this day and age, and also could you include what are the benefits, what do we get, or what should we get out of a Mawlid, what's the purpose, what's the objective?
Okay, so Mawlid, what's the Mawlid? And many people have really bizarre understandings of Mawlid, both those who advocate the Mawlid and those who oppose the Mawlid. So the description that I'm about to present, anyone with a judicious frame of mind and a sound heart will appreciate that Mawlid is a beautiful facet of deen, and it's beneficial and it has great masalih in it. So in terms of Mawlid, I'm just offering a working definition, and so basically the way we present Mawlid in terms of the way the Mawlid is practiced, generally speaking, is اهتمام المحافل يذكر فيها أوصاف النبي وينشد قصائد ويكسر الصلوات على النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم لتشعر الشوق والمحبة إليه والفرح والسرور لوجوده شكرا لله. And so the essence of Mawlid is the organization of mahafil, the bringing together, the coming together in gatherings. And what happens in that gatherings? يُذْكَرُ فِيهَا أَوْصَافُ النَّبِي. In those gatherings, the characteristics and the traits of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam are mentioned, and there's inshad of qasaid, poetry in praise of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. ويكسر الصلوات عليه, and salawat, the benedictions are sent upon Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the purpose is لتشعر الشوق, is to bring about a shu'ur of shawq, a longing, والمحبة, and a love towards Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and ultimately to bring about a state of farh wa surur, bring about a state of happiness and tranquility for the person of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not only in the universe but particularly in terms of his advent in this terrestrial abode, shukran lillahi ta'ala, as a type of gratitude for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so when you look at this, when you look at the ingredients of what generally happens in wholesome Mawlid celebratory events, is they're completely in line with the Quran and Sunnah. So coming together for majalis wa zikr, they are desired, they are mustahab, they are considered to be from the great aspects of birr, the dhikr of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is mentioned in the Quran. The awsaf of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam are mentioned in the Quran. The bringing of love poetry in love and honor of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a sunnah of the Sahaba, right? Many of the Sahaba, they composed beautiful poetry in honor of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The kathra of salawat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the obligation of salawat in the Quran. Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi ya ayyuhalladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima, like with abundance, right? So in these majalis there's abundance of salawat on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for the and to bring about a shu'ur, a sense of feeling, shawq, mahabba, and this is all ma'mur bihi. These are all desired acts. Love of Rasulullah is an obligation in the Quran. It's an obligation in the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And being glad, being happy at the liwujudi Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to the point that many of the scholars say that even Abu Lahab, who was the uncle who tragically for him opposed the Khairul Khalqi, even when he showed a sense of farh, a sense of gladness at the birth of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, by virtue of that, in spite of his kufr and in spite of his shirk, there is takhfif in his adab. And this is a big deal. Takhfif in adab is also a big deal, right? In fact, there's a passage in the Quran where on the day of judgment, when the kuffar are suffering the punishment in Jahannam, they ask Allah, they ask the people who are the guardians of Jahannam to ask Allah so that Allah does takhfif of their adab yawman, Allah says in the Quran, for just one day. Yet Abu Lahab, his takhfif of azab is every Monday. Right? That's how much of a big deal just the farh is. And the ulama, many of the ulama said, if this is the case with a mushrik, someone who is a vehement enemy of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, yet he showed love and he showed a sense of farh at the emergence of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then qis ala hadha in relation to the mu'mineen who believe in Rasulullah, who love Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who try to follow his sunnah. So all of these aspects are fundamentally fundamental essences in the different aspects of the Sharia, and completely beneficial and wholesome in a multiplicity of ways. Perhaps we don't have the time to go into each aspect because we have many other issues to really cover. So inshallah, it will suffice for now with just this.
People often they label gatherings of Mawlid as bid'ah, and this sometimes confuses the average person. People don't know what bid'ah is, what is bid'ah in Islam, and how was it understood by the companions in particular.
Okay, so bid'ah, generally speaking, is really an innovation, and it's mazmoom. It's something which is detested, and it's something that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam warned his ummah about, to the point that he sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Kullu bid'atin dalala." Every bid'ah is a dalala. It's a type of misguidance, and ultimately misguidance, any type of misguidance, if someone persists in it, it leads to damnation, and damnation leads to Jahannam, you see. And so bid'ah is really something which is an error, and a profound error. It's not kufr though. It's not kufr. Kufr is something which results in khulud fi nar, whereas bid'ah is a type of heresy, but it's a heresy dalala nonetheless. And so those people who make something which I've just mentioned, a bid'ah, really need to really check their facts, because these are all aspects that I've mentioned. These are aspects which are munji, like they lead to najah, like the salawat leads to najah, right? The mahafil of zikr attracts the angels. The love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a means for salvation. The shawq and muhabba is a wasila and so on and so forth, you see. So bid'ah really is something which is detrimental and erroneous. It's a fabrication. It's something that has Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, he said that the definition of a bid'ah, he said, La asla laha في الدين لا أصل لها في الدين. It does not have any asl in deen, meaning that it's such a new and fabricated aspect that has nothing to do with religion, right? Or an addition in religion. So for example, saying you only have to pray one salah a day is a type of bid'ah, or maybe even saying we have to pray 10 salahs a day as wajib, as in fard, is a type of bid'ah, or changing the extent of zakat, or changing the rules of marriage and nikah and talaq and all of these things. These are aspects which are bid'ah, or introducing new things which have no asal, they have no connection. So when we look at the mahafil of the Mawlid, salawat has asal in deen. Muhabbatul Rasul is the essence of deen. The mentioning of the fada'il and the virtues of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned in the Quran, shawqan, and having this shawq, this ardent desire to be with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, singing his poetry is the sunnah of the Sahaba. They're all usul in deen, you see. And so Mawlid cannot be a bid'ah from this point of view. And in fact, Sayyidah Aisha radiallahu anha, when she was asked about bid'ah, she said, ما رفع بها السنة ما رفع بها السنة. So bid'ah is something really which replaces the sunnah, right? So yukhalifu sunnah. It's like yukhalifu. It opposes the sunnah. So going back to the Mawlid, does the zikr of Rasulullah oppose the sunnah? Right? Does the poetry in honor of praise of Rasulullah oppose the sunnah? Does salawat on Rasulullah oppose the sunnah? Does tilawatul Quran oppose the sunnah? Does having shawq in your heart, tab'i mahabba with Rasulullah oppose the sunnah? Kalla, of course, of course not, right? And so really in many ways the Mawlid is the opposite of bid'ah, because it yusbitu sunnah, right? It brings about the subut, it makes the sunnah sabita, right? It actually, and this is why the scholars have this principle, ma yuaddi ila al-wajibi fahuwa wajibun. Anything that really leads to anything that supports the wajib is also wajib, meaning like it's necessary. So in this sense, all these aspects that are common in the Mawlid Mahafil, they really in many ways reinforce the sunnah, and so they are not bid'ah in the sense in which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is mentioning. So when he says kullu bid'atin, he's referring to those aspects, these innovations, which really are contrary to his religion, which really take people away from the religion, right? And Mawlid is an aspect that brings people to religion, right? There are many people who have no knowledge of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, yet they come to the gatherings of Mawlid and they're inspired with the seerah, they understand. And in many ways, the Mawlid gatherings have become an excuse for many people to really, it's become a means of ta'aleem. Inshallah, we'll talk about that. And so bid'ah really is we need to appreciate the real meaning of bid'ah. In fact, Sayyidah Aisha, in another tradition, she says, أول بدعة ما حدثت بعد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم الشبع. She said the first bid'ah to appear after the departure of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was eating full of stomach, like eating to your full, being satiate, was a bid'ah, because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Sahaba, they generally did not eat enough food to be satiate, because they were on the path of zuhud, right? They're on the path of zuhud, tazkiyah, taqarrub ilallah, right? Detachment from the dunya, not this frenzied yatakalabu ala dunya, which is the opposite of zuhud. Like, and it's a message for those people who supposedly celebrate the Mawlid. Yatakalabu, like dogs fight over dunya for leadership, for rivalry. I'm the Shaykh, no, that kind of stuff. Yatakalabu, this like dog-like frenzied love for status, for reputation, for murids, for disciples, for great students, and so on and so forth, right? This was the first bid'ah, like satiate, like, being away, a departure from zuhud was the first real bid'ah, you see. So bid'ah is a very universal concept. It needs to be treated with respect and maturity, and not just this black and white image which has no nuance and fiqh. And remember, we have to have fiqh din. Fiqh din is fiqh hadith. What did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mean when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said this? What's the murad? You see, that's why we have ulama. Ulama interpret the murad of Allah and the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There are many hadiths. We looked at it in the segment of Islamic transactions, and there's one hadith, and there are three different types of fiqh that come out of that one hadith. Each scholar interprets that tradition in his own unique vantage point, from his own vantage point, you see. And so it really needs to be, considered with maturity and with genuine deliberation.
Okay, does that mean that every new thing in religion is a bid'ah then?
Yes, of course. So that's a very good point, because there are many aspects. So the newness which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is really warning the ummah about are new aspects that yukhalifu dini, right? Or things which oppose his blessed religion, right? So it's not just new per se, so to speak. And so there are many things that the Sahaba did which neither Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded nor Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam encouraged. Okay, so for example, Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu anhu, after doing wudu, he would perform 2 rakats of nafal. So meaning, neither did Allah prescribe that, nor did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam encourage that. Yet when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this was brought to the attention of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he praised that, right? So it's a new thing. And there are many aspects like the Taraweeh, in the manner in which Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu noticed the Sahaba doing, right? The initiation of a collective Jama'ah for the rest of Ramadan was a new thing. Neither did Allah command that, nor did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam command that. And yet the Sahaba did a completely new thing, to the point that even Sayyidina Umar said regarding that, he said, "Ni'matul bid'atu hazihi." This is a beautiful bid'ah, this, right? And there are many examples, like the compilation of the Quran in the form in which was later compiled. These all bid'at, these all new aspects, you see. And so neither commanded by Allah nor encouraged by Rasulullah. Yet the Sahaba did that with their own ijtihad, based on the masalih, based upon the interests, the interests and benefits for the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
But they were Sahaba, they were good express teachings by the Prophet ﷺ. What about the rest of the Ummah afterwards, the after generations?
The simple answer to that is the later generation did exactly what the Sahaba did. They did the Sunnah of the Sahaba in relation to these new matters. So, for example, they continued the bringing about novel aspects in religion to support religion, to buttress the walls and the foundations of religion. They did exactly what the Sahaba did. And so, for example, many of the new sciences which emerged after the Sahaba, like there was not a science of Aqidah at the time of the Sahaba. There was no ilmul kalam at the time of the Sahaba. There was no usulul fiqh at the time of Sahaba. There was no ilmul nahw wa sarf at the time of the Sahaba, right? And these sciences, and in fact the tadween of fiqh, the tadween of hadith, the tadween of all these ulum, tasawwuf as a science, as a methodology emerged all after the Sahaba, you see. And so in the spirit of supporting the deen, you see. And so they appreciated the nuanced meaning of newness. They didn't see, anything which is new completely in the sense of like it's a danger. They realized that certain new things were a necessity, you see. And there are many also acts of taqarrub ila Allah that later generation of Muslims did, uh, which neither the Sahaba nor Rasulullah nor Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded. You see, like, and there are many people. So the Ummah is in general agreement about the virtues of Imam Bukhari, who is the great muhaddis. We know his collection is the most famous collection, most reliable collection considered by the ulama, right? People in the Salafi, the Deobandi, the Brelvi, all these traditions, they respect Imam Bukhari. And yet, what did Imam Bukhari used to do? Every time he wrote the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam down, he used to do 2 rakats of nafil. He used to do ghusl, and he used to read 2 rakats of nafil, right? And that, this did Allah command that? Did Rasulullah command that? Was there any hadith that this is how you compile hadith? Did the Sahaba do that? So there are many Sahaba who related ahadith, and some Sahaba even wrote down ahadith. But did they do ghusl every time they did that? Did they read 2 rakats of nafal? But Imam Bukhari did. So Imam Bukhari did something that the Sahaba never did. Yet taqarruban ilallah, complete bid'ah, an absolutely complete bid'ah. Right, that neither did Allah command, nor Rasulullah commanded, nor did the Sahaba do. Yet Imam Bukhari is doing something as an act of taqarrub. And Mawlid is exactly the same, right? But he's not obliging the rest of the Ummah to do that. And so as long as we don't oblige the rest of the Ummah to do these mahafilul zikr, ihtimamul, ihtifal, and so on, exactly like as long as we don't oblige them, they don't become reprehensible. You see, they become praiseworthy, just like the nafals and the ghusl of Imam Bukhari is. And there are many more examples of that, really. I mean, in fact, there's a Sahih Muslim hadith where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is related to have said, "Man sanna fil Islami sunnatan hasanatan kana lahu ajruha wa ajru man amila biha min ba'dih." Anyone who brings about a new sunnah, and the ulama say sunnah here is an aspect of virtue that really brings about goodness of deen. Kana lahu ajru. Anyone who does that, he has the ajr for it, and he has the ajr for someone who follows that also. You see, and Ibn Mas'ud, and this is a mawquf hadith, ما رآه المسلم, and this is a famous, everyone's heard of that, ما رآه المسلمون حسنا فهو عند الله حسن. Anything that the Muslims deem good, beneficial, according to the masalih, فهو عند الله حسن, and this is with Allah is also good. So Imam Shafi'i really, in many ways, he summarizes the meanings of these two traditions, and so in terms of his fiqh, he says, ما أحدث وخالف كتابا أو سنة أو إجماعا أو أثرا فهو البدعة الضالة. Anything which is brought about in religion that yukhalifu, that opposes the book of Allah, opposes the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, opposes the ijma of the ummah, opposes the athar from the traditions, it is something which is bid'ah dalla. It's erroneous, it's error. وما أحدث من الخير ولم يخالف شيئا من ذلك فهو المحمود. And anything which is new, novel, brought about, and it doesn't oppose anything from what we just mentioned, فهو المحمود, it is praiseworthy. It is praiseworthy. And this is in relation to people who came after the Sahaba. You see.
Are you saying, Sheikh, that there's different kinds of bid'ah, because we only hear the word bid'ah itself, we don't hear any types?
Okay, so what we're really saying is we're saying that the notion of bid'ah is very nuanced. We need to appreciate the fiqh of that. And the ulama, the Sahaba and the later ulama understood and appreciated that the bid'ah that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is referring to is a bid'ah dala. It's a bid'ah which is a fabrication. Yukhalifu sunnah, yukhalifu al-Quran, yukhalifu al-ijma, wa hakadha. Right? They weren't referring to any new novel aspect which supported the deen, you see, as referring to that as bid'ah. And so for that reason, they termed and coined new terminology for people to appreciate that not all matters which arise, which are novel, are the referent or the murad of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in being dala, you see. And for this reason, they composed a a demarcation of the different types of bid'ahs, you see. And so, these are great muhaddithin, great ulama, the likes of Imam An-Nawawi, Imam Izz bin Abdul Salam, Imam Ibn Hajar Asqalani, Imam Jalaluddin As-Suyuti, really masters of this Islamic sciences, and they compose this a nuanced appreciation of really the classification of bid'ah. And so, for example, they say there are various types of bid'ah. So one of the types of bid'ah is a bid'ah wajiba. So these are aspects of bid'ah which are necessary, meaning that you need them to revive deen. You need them to maintain the deen. So, for example, the codification and the tadween of the Islamic sciences, right, were necessary. There was a time when paying the imam's salary was considered to be ma'yub, right? Paying the muazzin's salary was ma'yub. But later on, the mutaakhirin deemed that necessary, because what was happening is because everyone's busy with their tijara. There weren't any imams looking after the masajid. Muazzins wouldn't have time. And so therefore a salary was brought about. It was a bid'ah, right? But it supported the deen. And so these are bid'ah wajiba. And then we have bid'ah which are mustahabba. So these are, like, for example, the building of the madaris, the ribats, the zawiyas, the calling for the adhan in the minarets, and generally all actions which were deemed good, ma ra'ahul muslimuna khayran, like based on the masalih, were considered to be mustahab in new matters, but mustahab. And then we have the bid'ah, which is a new matter, which is a type of makruh. It's detested, it's not liked, it's frowned upon. So, for example, embellishing the masahif of the Quran, the copies of Quran with being extreme in that, decorating the masajid is reprehensible. New things didn't happen at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but they weren't haram, but they were not liked either. They were detested. Being excessive in decorating the masahif and the masajid. Then there are bid'ah, the new aspects which are mubah. New technology, new types of food, new types of clothing. They're all mubah, you see. And so we have a bid'ah which is muhrima. So these are new novel matters, and the usul of these, which are haram, which are forbidden, you see. And so the usul of this is very important for us to appreciate what these matters are, which will be considered the type of bid'at that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is condemning. And the usul is وَهِيَ مَا أَحْدَثَ. These are things which are brought about, new novel things, لِمُخَالَفَةِ السُنَّةِ, that really oppose the sunnah, the spirit of sunnah. وَلَمْ تَشْمِلْهُ أَدِلَّةِ الشَّرْعِ الْعَامَةِ, and they're not encompassed within the adillah of the sharia. Like all these aspects that we mentioned in relation to the Mawlid, they're all encompassed in the Shara. You see, وَلَمْ يَحْتَوِي عَلَى مَصْلِحَةِ شَرْعِيَّةِ, and they don't really consist of the benefit of the Sharia. So they do neither of the, and they oppose. And these are matters which are really which are the type of bid'at, you see, which are condemned, you see. And so these demarcations and classification of bid'ah were necessary for clarification, for tawzih, so that the ummah has guidance and irshad in relation to new and novel matters, which they will always experience. We will experience new matters arising every year, you see, and will continue. And so they established the usul to help the ummah to appreciate that there are certain new novel matters which are important and beneficial, whereas there are new novel matters which are not wholesome, rather toxic, you see.
The great scholars and the imams of Islam, it's been 1400 years. What do they say about the Mawlid being bid'ah? What's their stance?
Okay, so many of the scholars, in fact, if I may begin by actually mentioning that there are scholars who didn't just deliberate on the fatwa aspect, whether Mawlid is permissible or not. They actually wrote books on it. They wrote treatises on it, and great works on it. You see, and so if I mention a few of them, so we have Hafiz Ibn Nasir al-Dimashqi. He wrote a book, Jami'ul Athar fi Mawlid al Nabiy al Mukhtar, right? And it's in 3 volumes. right? He's a Hafiz al Muhaddis, great scholar of Deen. Then we have Al Hafiz Abdul Rahim Al Iraqi, who was another great Muhaddis. He wrote Al Mawlid Al Hani fi Mawlid Al Sani. Again, great muhaddis, a great scholar of traditions. We have the likes of Al-Hafiz Al-Sakhawi, Al-Hafiz Ibn Kathir, Al-Hafiz Mullah Ali Al-Qari, Al-Hafiz Ibn Dayba Al-Zabidi. This is the man who taught Bukhari more than 100 times. Bukhari is this, mashallah, very comprehensive book of tradition. More than 100 times he taught this. When he taught you with sharh, with tafsil, with detail, you see. And there are many other scholars who, like Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, Imam Abdul Rahman as-Suyuti, and all of these great scholars, Shah Abdul Haq Muhaddis, the great Muhaddis of Delhi, Shah Waliullah, the great Muhaddis of Delhi, and all these great scholars, to the point that Haji Imdadullah al-Muhajir al-Makki also composed a work on the Mawlid, it being permissible and it being praiseworthy, you see. And so the point is, there are many great scholars which have deemed, and these are scholars who are pivots in the deen, right? Their books are considered hujaj. Like many scholars, when they have issues arising, they refer to Ibn Hajar Asqalani or Abdul Rahman Suyuti or Ibn Hajar Aitami, and all of these great scholars, you see, Shah Abdul Haq, and so such caliber of scholars would not deem something which was actually harmful to be a great thing, and yet they're writing great works on it, to the point that even Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, who's one of the scholars that's often used to oppose the Mawlid. In fact, there is one of his in his fatwa, he mentions a particular aspect of the Mawlid being permissible, being praiseworthy. Rather, he says, قد يثاب بعض الناس على فعل المولد, that many people who celebrate the Mawlid will be yusabu, they will be given thawab. You see, فتعظيم المولد واتخاذه موسما قد يفعله بعض الناس ويكون له فيه أجر عظيم لحسن قصده وتعظيمه لرسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم, you see. And so to the point that he says that the respect of the ta'zim of Mawlid, the veneration of the Mawlid itself, and and bringing it into season, like you have the seasons of Mawlid, like many people do themselves. قد يفعله بعض الناس, like many people certainly do that. ويكون له فيه أجر, and for them there is ajr in that, لحسن قصده, for the goodness of his intention, وتعظيمه لرسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, and his veneration of Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم. So even Imam Taqiyuddin Ibn Taymiyyah considers this as an amal yuthabu, even though he opposed certain aspects of it, you see, himself. And so really there's generally an ijma on this issue, in terms of the permissibility and the goodness of it, and anyone who's really opposed it, they really opposed it from the point of view of the khurafat, these excessive aspects, which we'll talk about shortly.
Do we have any usul in the religion to justify the observance like we observe it now in the 21st century?
Of course, I mean, if you go back to our first introduction to what the Mawlid is, they're all based on usul. قل بفضل الله وبذلك فليفرحوا قل بفضل الله وبرحمته فبذلك فليفرحوا. Allah commands in relation to the grace of God and the mercy of God, فليفرحوا, like show happiness, show joy. وأما بنعمة ربك فحدث. As for the ni'mah of your Lord, فحدث, popularize, talk about it, celebrate it, you see. The dhikr of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah mentions the dhikr of Rasulullah, the attributes of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the Quran, right? The salawat is mentioned in the Quran, the recitation of the Quran is mentioned in the Quran. The Sahaba, they did on poetry in honor of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the presence of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam praised them for their poetry, you see. And on all of these aspects, they're fundamentally rooted in the Quran and Sunnah, fundamentally rooted in the Quran and Sunnah, and they support the maqasid of the deen. Believers getting together, loving Allah and the Messenger, loving one another for the sake of Allah and the Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, talking about the seerah, the different aspects of the seerah, are fundamentally rooted in the usuluddin.
Are there any concerns relating to some extreme ways of celebrating the Blessed Mawlid? Are there any worries or concerns and any guidance that can be given to the brothers and sisters?
There will always be people who, due to extravagance and due to lack of faham, or just due to sheer folly, they will bring bad things to good situations, right? And they exist in terms of celebrating the Mawlid. So this new invention of bringing a birthday cake and saying happy birthday to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I mean, this is like, what do you do? Where do you use this normally? Like your kid's birthday party, right? And you say happy birthday to your kid, right? You're comparing your, Rasulullah to your average human being. Is this honor? But this is the opposite of ta'zim. That's bringing Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to a common level. And Allah that condemns that. وَلَا تَجْهَرُوا بِقَوْلِكَ جَهْرِ بَعْضِكُمْ بَعْضًا. Don't treat Rasul, don't even address Rasulullah like you address each other. And yet we're bringing Rasulullah to the level of our children and our people in our community. Happy birthday to you. Kharafat, like this is bizarre and completely erroneous. And the scholars have to condemn that. Scholars have to condemn that, you see. And so there are bid'at. If the scholars do not condemn, they will be held to account on the Day of Judgment. And that's why it's so important. There were some scholars who even decided that we will treat this exactly like another Eid, to the point, I'm not going to mention his name. He was a famous scholar in Lahore. And he said that we will now get up in the morning after Fajr. 2-3 hours later, we'll all gather together in Eidgah. We'll do 2 rakats of nafal for shukr, and then we'll treat the whole day like an Eid. Many of the scholars said, no, this will not happen, because this is now yukhalifu sunnah. This is now yukhalifu sunnah. You see, and so there will always be, and doing things that the non-Muslims do generally, which are acts of condemn, which we should condemn. Bringing these aspects to the Mawlid aspects, men and women mixing together, right? No segregation, no rules of hijab, no rules of decorum and modesty is a bid'ah, right? Coming to the Mawlid gathering and then not praying your fard salah is a bid'ah, right? And so this happens everywhere. So just because these issues arise in good aspect doesn't mean we leave the good. You don't throw the baby with the bathwater, right? Meaning that where there is need for rectification, you make that rectification, right? You make that rectification, but you don't take the goodness of the Mawlid away from the Ummah. However, it's celebrated, as long as it's celebrated within the confines of the Shara itself.
The final question, and probably the most important and practical sort of question, bearing in mind the concept of ihsan in everything that we do, what is the best way that we can celebrate the Mawlid Sharif itself?
MashaAllah, that's a beautiful question, a very important one, because really everything we do, we must do with excellence, as is mentioned by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so it shouldn't be just coming together and doing what we've been doing over and over again. We should look for creative ways of bringing the deen to non-Muslims. We should pick certain very important subjects on the Mawlid gatherings. There are issues that the Ummah is going through. We should address those issues particularly. So, being very creative in a way that, again, supports the Shara, right? Brings about the maqasid, brings the Ummah together. And these aspects really need to be looked into. And because each time has certain requirements. We live in the end of times. We live in many ways, the lion's den, at the heart of kufr. and we have many challenges. And so Mawlid is just another opportunity for us to address those challenges, for us to come together, for us to look at aspects of Seerah, aspects of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's blessed Sunnah that we really need to celebrate. And one of the shayukhs was saying the best way you celebrate the Mawlid is be a good Muslim, right? Is to support your deen. Because if we're offering a present, if we're really showing gratitude to Allah, right, and we're offering the best present to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is goodness of amal, is a sound heart, is tazkiyah, is to bring unity in his nation. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is like a father, right? He is the patriarchal figure, of the ummah of Muhammad, of his ummah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he wants his ummah to be united, to be loving, to be kind, to be considerate, to be generous, to be wholesomely disposed towards each other, not cursing each other, not condemning each other, not vilifying each other, not alienating each other, right? And so these aspects, they need to be looked into. And I mentioned right at the start, there are people who celebrate the Mawlid and have so much hatred for each other, so much hiqad. Where is the hiqad in the Sunnah? We find muhabba in the Sunnah. La imana liman la mahabbata lahu. La imana liman la mahabba. You have no iman if you don't have muhabba. And this is not just muhabba in relation to Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is muhabba in relation to one another. La tadkhulul jannah hatta tu'minu. You will not enter paradise until you believe. Wala tu'minu hatta tahabbu. Right? And you will not have faith until you love one another. Until you love one another. And so if we're celebrating the Mawlid and we can't stand our colleagues or our contemporaries, we're not prepared to even sit with them, to strategize, to sit on a table, to confer, to have a conference, but all we're doing is we're looking for people's fault. We're looking for them to fall and then condemn them and then excommunicate them and then say, he's batil, like he's wrong. Is this sunnah? Is Rasulullah going to be really happy at that? Or is Rasulullah going to be happy when you reach out to your brother and say, I missed you, we need to sit together, we need to strategize, mashallah. Is there any way I can help you? Or are you going through any issues? Let me support you. I've written a book on this subject, right? Oh yeah, mashallah, let's support each other's dawah efforts. Let's support each other's dawah efforts. Let's not condemn each other. Let's not down each other. That's not sunnah, that's not mawlid, that's not tazkiyah, that's not Sufism. But if you are following a path of Sufism and all you're doing is hasad, bughd, inad, then you haven't even smelt the fragrance of Sufism and tasawwuf. And so it's a wake-up call. Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, what does it mean? The whole of the deen encompassed. So when you pick certain aspects that are supposedly pleasant to you, like singing in qasidas and, mashallah, going in hadaras, right? Okay, you like them. But when a brother comes to your zavia and you haven't seen him for 20 years, and all you say is, don't pray there, pray there in the corner. Is this sunnah? Is this what the Shaykh has been telling you all those 20, 30 years? Right? Is this ikramul muslimin? Right? So wake up call, really, the proof is in the pudding, man. The proof is in the pudding. If you love Allah and the Messenger, you love your ummah. And the ummah doesn't mean only in Palestine or only in Kashmir. Ultimately, the ummah begins local. Al-haqqu lil-qaribi. Al-haqqu lil-qaribi. The right is the one who's closest to you. Right? And so if we're condemning, vilifying, sabotaging each other, and yet, mashallah, we want to establish Islam and all that kind of stuff. Oh, we're people of tazkiyah, we're Sufis and all that kind of stuff, right? Then it's a contradiction, man. It's a contradiction. And so, wake up call. Mawlid is about love, it's about muhabba, it's about ta'awun, it's about bringing the ummah together in love, in ta'awun. And, and if you don't like that, then there's going to be a rude awakening on the Day of Judgment, right? So it's better to wake up, right, and see light of the day. And sometimes it's quite cold, the light of day. and so we need to have a sense of muhasabah. Are these gatherings, are these observances bringing us unity? And we need cooperation like no other time. We can't afford to, as an ummah, condemn each other and oppose each other. The whole world is vying to destroy Islam and the Muslim, and yet we are destroying each other first before the kuffar. And remember, there's something called functional devils, unwitting functional devils. Meaning, what does the devil do? What are the maqasid of shaitan? The maqasid of shaitan is to create dalala, is to create fitna, is to destroy humanity, is to undermine, is to create fasad, right? Is to create hatred, is to create animosity and bughd and inad and all of these things. If we are doing this to each other, then we are functional devils, because we are doing what the shaitan wants unwittingly. And so really, before you start, doing all of these things and all that, just think about what the Mawlid represents. And I hope this is a very important message to us. The bottom line, the ultimate point, the quintessence of all acts of taqarrub, of deen itself, is a connection with Allah and love, ihsan with the ibad of Allah. That's the deen, you see. Sila billah and sila in relation to the ibad of Allah. And these are both fundamental efforts that we need to focus on. We ask Allah forgiveness for our sins. Allah have mercy on us. Allah unite the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah enable all those people who celebrate the Mawlid to really appreciate the meaning of the Mawlid, and even those people who don't celebrate the Mawlid in the way in which it's celebrated in contemporary times. Even these are people who love Allah and the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we don't condemn them. They are our brothers in deen. That's their ijtihad. We don't say they don't love Rasulullah. That's wrong. Those people who don't celebrate the Mawlid according to contemporary times, they don't love Rasulullah. They are opposed. That's batil. There are many people who don't celebrate the Mawlid in the manner and fashion that we celebrate it. They love Allah and the Messenger. They weep in the love of Allah. They are longing to meet Rasulullah. They are supporting the cause of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so it's about unity. We need, as an ummah, to be united, to be together, to be supporting one another. Muhammadun Rasulullah wallazina amanu ma'ahu wa shidda'u 'ala al-kuffari ruhama'u bainahum. And we become the opposite of that. We become like ruhama for the ahlul kufr wa dalala, and those people destroying Islam, and ashidda bainahum, like aggressive towards each other. Wake up call.
I think you've given a very important message at the end there for our brothers and sisters, that the essence of Mawlid, where we're celebrating the love of the Prophet ﷺ, love amongst us should be strong as well. So today's podcast has been very useful. So we're very grateful and thankful to Afsa for that, where we looked at Mawlid, the definitions. We looked at evidences from the Quran, evidences from the Hadith. We also looked at the classical scholars, and we also looked at the essence and the objective of Mawlid. Inshallah, to come, we're hoping, inshallah, the next two podcasts, one on the biography of the Prophet ﷺ and one on the Shama'il, love and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Inshallah, hopefully we endeavor that the following two podcasts will be on these two themes, and then inshallah the fiqh of interpersonal relation will probably hold that till October, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
قمر